So I've been thinking about something kind of embarrassing to admit out loud, maybe, but the two things that I've put the most time in my adult life, I guess, um, are World of Warcraft and school, graduate school. I'm starting to think that they might be the same thing. And also, this is bugged. Okay, cool. Not like I wanted a reward. Whatever. So okay, I last year I graduated with an MFA in creative writing and translation. My main focus was literary translation. Which, if you don't know what this is, it's basically a degree where you spend, in my case, 4 years writing, workshopping, and talking to other writers, trying to figure out how to improve and how to do the thing that you want to do artistically. That's an oversimplification, but that's pretty much what you end up doing for the time there. And, after your time is done, you graduate and you kind of just stay there holding a diploma or whatever, not totally sure what it means or what comes next. Which, now that I say this out loud, it kind of feels like how seasons feel in World of Warcraft, or just in seasonal games in general. Both of these things pull me in because I genuinely love the thing at the center of it. I love writing. I love language. I love. Am I in combat with that thing? Awkward. Okay. I love the feeling of translating something and finding the exact word that carries the exact weight that that I spent weeks looking for. It's a feeling like no other. And in World of Warcraft, I love World of Warcraft. I love the world, I love the dungeons, and similarly to translation, I love that moment where everything clicks, and the run just flows. Your dungeon, your raid boss, whatever. There is no feeling like it. And I'm about to die, so I need to focus. But at some point in both of those things, the thing that you love gets wrapped in so much structure and obligation that you have to go digging to find that love again. A lot of people talk about writer's block or just, artistic block in some sense, and it's just the same thing as burnout from games. It's just a fancy word for burnout. In grad school, that might look like reading 3 books a week for a seminar, for class, writing a response paper, writing feedback, reading someone's 70-page short story for some reason, short story in quotation marks. At some point, the art, the whatever that you actually care about, gets squeezed into the margins. It gets forgotten. You do it tired. You do it at night. You do it with, the weight of all the other 20,000 responsibilities you have in your, real life. In WoW, it looks like farming crests, running content you don't care about, grinding for a piece of gear that you need, all these like chores, all this homework. Because it is at the end of the day, it's homework. You have to read guides, you have to stay up to date with your classes, you have to read patch notes, make sure that you're doing the right things with the boss mechanics or whatever, right? The thing you loved is still in there between all that stuff. You just have to dig for it. And specifically about the MFA, nobody agrees on what good looks like. You can be in a workshop and one person loves the experimental structure and another person says it's alienating, and your professor says something that sounds profound and you write it down and later you read it back and you're almost like, what was that about? There was no guidance here. There's nothing immediate to tell you whether something's good or bad. There's no damage meter, there's no timer, there's no moment where the dungeon just, you know, goes smoothly and correctly and you get your loot and there's no problem, right? There's nothing that comes out and says, you are a good writer now. Which is kind of funny because I thought that WoW was going to be the thing where I never knew if I was improving, especially as someone who pugs 90% of the time. I have no stable group. I have no baseline. Every run I do is different, which is part of the fun for me, honestly, about pugging. But also, it gives you this inconsistency that you never know what to do with. You can have an excellent run and then a terrible run on the same dungeon, and be like, was it me? Like, was I the one who messed up? In grad school, there was always more to read, always more to write. There's always another essay or something theoretical to just dive into. And I feel like in WoW there is too, not as intensely, but it is there. There's weekly resets. Again, all these things that I mentioned that you gotta read up on. It's similar, but not to the same degree. At some point, the hobby, the thing you love, starts to have homework, and I'm not. I don't know if I agreed to it, but I understand that it's part of the game and that competitive drive that I have. I graduated a year ago, um, and I'll be honest, the first few months felt a lot like an off season. You know, structure is gone. I have time to write the same way I would just have time to play the game, but because there's no timer, there's no anything competitive, I don't have that drive, and I don't know what to do about that. I don't know how to sit down and relax and just do art for the sake of doing art. I don't know how to sit down and play WoW for the sake of playing the game I love. Why do I even care about meters, you know? What do I want to get out of this game if there is no one else watching the meters? I don't know. I don't know the answer to this. And I think that's kind of the point, and maybe other people feel similarly. In many ways, a lot of this confusion that I felt that I feel anytime I don't have inspiration to work, I remind myself of WoW. I do think WoW has been weirdly useful for working through these feelings because the game keeps asking me, what does good mean? How do you reach that? Sorry, I'm talking a bit slower because I'm like half paying attention to the game and half talking. What does improvement look like when I don't have a timer for myself, when I don't have a meter? Why do I care about a timer and a meter? I don't know. And maybe both things, the degree and the game, were never really about the credential. Maybe they were just about finding people to do hard things alongside, seeing how far I can go before the key depletes, before my life depletes, I guess, in the case of translation. I don't know. Maybe it's something about, something, it's the people, it's the friends you make along the way. I don't think that's where I was gonna end up with this ramble, but it does feel like that to improve, you need to have something to compare yourself with, whether that's a friend or a colleague or a rival or something. And it's important to build community in both. In everything you want to achieve, community ends up being everything. I don't know. Let me know if you have a degree that you also can't really explain to your family, or if you have a main spec that also can't be explained to your family. Either way, thank you for listening to this. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on the next one.